Hello everyone, we are delighted to showcase the key findings from the inaugural DNA VP of Construction report, an insight into building successful teams in construction. Today we'll be hearing from James Hawley, Executive Vice President at Hayes, on the findings from the report, and Ken Simonson, the Chief Economist at the Associated General Contractors of America, on the health of the economy and construction. A few housekeeping pieces. All participants will be muted throughout the presentation, so please direct your questions through to James or the WebEx host using the chat function there on the bottom right. And now I'm pleased to hand over to James.
Thanks, April. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. This is our DNA of a VP of Construction, specifically geared towards employers. So in this presentation today, we're going to go through some key data and really extract some findings that we had along the way to help everyone on this call focus on, are you a leader within the industry, and hopefully provide you some insights into that. So before we get started, let me just quickly introduce myself. As April said, my name is James Hawley. I've been with the business for a little over 15 years. I'm responsible for 3 of our high-growth recruitment divisions, servicing our clients nationally. So these include life sciences, accounting and finance, and the one that we're going to focus on today, which is construction and property. So I'm excited to present this report. I'm really pleased that so many of you guys have joined us and participated in the survey. We're also going to have on deck a guest presenter. I'm joined today by Ken Simonson, and he's the Chief Economist over at AGC. And he's an expert within the construction industry, and I think you guys will enjoy getting a little bit more insight from him as well today. Also, feel free at the end, we're going to do some Q&A, so feel free to, throughout the presentation, any questions that come to mind, feel free to send those to the chat feature, and we'll answer those during our Q&A portion. And during that session, I'm also pleased to introduce that we're going to have Alex Powell. He's an 18-year veteran with Hayes, and he manages our construction and property business in our East region. So to start, let me just give you guys a background how we created the report. So overall, the response was actually quite robust. A lot of you guys participated, and I want to thank you all for that. And really, if you combine it all, we had over 130 VPs, directors, executives, and other industry leaders really give their insights and thoughts into their career. So we compiled that, and basically, we found out how they started, how they progressed, and then most importantly, some lessons learned on the leadership front. We also took the time and sat down and interviewed 27 executives across the country from some of the leading companies to delve deeper into their experiences, some insights, and some advice. So you'll see that I pulled out some quotes that I thought were noteworthy and that supported today's presentation. But you can find the full interviews and all the details on our website, which is at hayes-us.com/DNA. And then finally, we did have input as well from 2 of the industry-leading associations, which were AGC, the chapter in Houston, and also PWC, the Professional Women in Construction Association. So looking at who took part in the survey, as you can see, there's a pretty good range of ages. Most unsurprisingly, the largest demographic was between 40 and 60 years of age. The responses were largely from male executives. I really think this is just a reality in the industry just at the moment. I'm sure that, in the future, as we see more women move into these leadership roles, that we'll see this change, because we're seeing quite a few women entering into the field today. We also have a good range of sizes of organizations represented. Most are in the $25 to $500 million range, but we also had a fairly significant number under $5 million and over $1 billion. And finally, we had a great range of representation across the country for where these executives and their companies operate. So let's start with an overview of the career path and discuss our findings. So this is a key piece that we use to map the career steps. So we asked VPs to rate the most important skill at each level of their career, and that gives us a roadmap to the top office. So we started at the left with getting the basic business knowledge required, and then the broader the foundation there, the higher you can build, so to speak. The middle stage is about juggling all the moving pieces that go into managing projects. For instance, communication, commercial understanding, solving organizational goals, problem resolution, as well as people management. And finally, the key piece of being a business leader on the far right is having that crucial strategic planning ability. So how can you use these insights to make better hiring and training decisions that will drive business results now as well as into the future? So we want to take a look at this, and we'll start with stage one. So junior to intermediate employees need to build that broad foundation. Construction definitely, as you guys know, is the technical field, and understanding the day-to-day operations, how a building is built or a project put together is absolutely crucial. So as we look at the different areas that VPs have worked in, it's interesting. You can see that more than 80% have some experience in project management, contracts, and estimating, with almost as many also working in operations, site supervision, and cost control. So 3/4 have site supervision experience, which really shows the importance of that field knowledge, and 2/3 have worked in more than 10 different functions within construction. So what's the key takeaway there? Find ways to give your employees a range of different experiences and skills to make sure that they're well-rounded. For example, Matthew Shimenti offers his teams a rational program to give that exposure across his business. You can also do this by hiring people with transferable skill sets. Instead of hiring people with the exact experience of your region or sector, consider hiring from other sectors or different types of companies. The slight delay in getting them up to speed with your company will be worth it in the end, because you're getting an employee with a different perspective who can drive innovation as well as new and improved results. So looking at the best educational start, 1/3 of VPs have a construction management degree, and more than half say that that is imperative, that degree, for success within the industry. More than half have some kind of undergraduate degree. However, almost 20% have reached their position with only a high school or technical diploma, which really shows that our industry of construction is one where hard work and on-the-job training can still lead into senior management roles. As Chris Desco from Clark Construction notes, all you really need to start a great career in construction is drive, ability, and know-how. But he does stress that you need to invest in continual learning and education to make the most out of the opportunities. I think that some level of qualification or degree is becoming necessary to reach that senior level, and I think as an employer, you can support that. So the message here is to be open to people with different educational backgrounds when hiring, and consider investing in your employees' education, whether that's specific certifications such as LEED or support getting to their degree or even an MBA. I think this is a great recruitment and retention tool as well. Employees want to work for employers who will support their ongoing learning and development. So a final note on this stage, although it applies across the entire career path, work ethic was rated as the #1 soft skill that VPs need. And any of those who second-guessed their career at some point, 1/3 said it was due to the stress or lack of work-life balance that comes from the workload. I think hard work will set you apart in any industry, but this proves in construction it's really a requirement for success. Many people talked about work ethic, but I wanted to highlight just one quote from Mycon's VP, Justin Jeffus. And Justin says, if you're determined to succeed, then you will need to bring that work ethic to every task you have, whether you're a laborer or a VP. And that, I think, is key from the field to the boardroom, that this really is an industry that demands a lot of time, as you guys all know, and a lot of energy, but it's also an industry that truly rewards that effort. So you really get out of it what you put in. So how can you use this information to improve your hiring? Suggestion would be asking behavioral questions about how candidates have reacted to situations. Are they willing to put in the time if necessary? How, have they gone about going above and beyond in situations to solve problems, drive results, or invest even in their own career, being a self-starter? So on to the next stage of your employees' careers, reaching management. So not every construction leader will be a project manager, but everyone needs to be able to manage projects and teams to some degree. So how can you ensure that you are hiring and developing people with those skills that can excel? So according to the responses we got, at management level, the balance between soft and technical skills do tip, and soft skills become even more important. At manager level, construction professionals say 2/3 of their role require soft skills over technical skills. By director level, construction leaders spend 3 times as much time developing their soft skills as their technical. Construction VPs tell us communication skills are the #1 trait that they look for when they're hiring. So if you want to advance to management and beyond, we focus on improving your written as well as verbal communication abilities. So here are the most important soft skills in order according to our survey respondents. You can see at the top, as discussed, is work ethic. That is closely followed by communication skills and people management, which are crucial for getting to and beyond management. And then you can see problem-solving skills is next. So let's move to part 2 of this section. So problem-solving skills and providing solutions to meet the organizational goals are considered 2 of the most important skill sets for a mid-level to management professional. So in combination, this indicates that construction professionals must be able to find practical solutions to these organizational challenges. At its heart, problem solving is about assessing each situation and finding specific behaviors, programs, or processes to introduce to overcome that challenge. The 3 most important soft skills at this level, I think, all contribute to problem resolution. So you obviously need that problem-solving ability, but you also need the confidence to implement change and the collaboration skills to work with others and accept different ideas. The other side of the problem-solving, or really what's often the cause of the initial problem, is recovering from mistakes. So here, Bob Postma from Manhattan Construction highlights the need to let your employees make mistakes and let them fail sometimes, and let them recover then from their own mistakes. It's a necessary part of learning. When we asked about mistakes they've made, 1/3 say that VPs say that the biggest mistake was a managerial one, which shows the importance of people management in the construction career. And 1/4 say the biggest mistake was technical. So this is quite high compared to the other reports we've done around the world, which I think shows that construction is still a very technical field. That team leadership is that last key step in the career level. No matter how hard someone works or how much expertise they have, no one can do everything themselves. An effective team is critical for success. The #1 skill needed in the mid and management level of a career is people management, and almost 90% of VPs say their team's overall ability was important in helping them achieve their current role. We'd all agree with that. Construction leaders identified delegation, not surprisingly, as their #1 weakness, with difficulty collaborating as the 3rd highest. The ability to work on a team, assign tasks, trust others to complete those tasks is critical. So look for opportunities to practice this skill before reaching management. The balance between good oversight and micromanaging is quite a delicate one, and professionals who fall too far one way or the other will struggle to achieve those organizational and personal career goals. Robert Kondracki from John Gallen and Sons says, specifically, if you're not delegating, then you're not making the most of your time, and you're not giving your team room to grow as well as learn. So make sure you're training or coaching people on how to delegate and how to be good team leaders. So finally, you've gotten the project management experts you need in your organization. So what are the elevated skills and experiences that they'll need for senior leadership? So let's take a look at your hiring and coaching priorities. Construction might be one of the biggest industries in the country, but it's still very much a relationship-based industry. When someone you have, not met, hears your name, what feeling do they get about you? That's your brand. So more than 80% of VPs say it's very important to network, and about 2/3 attend networking events, getting themselves out there every single quarter or more. Here, David Gregory from Bravo Builders notes, all you have in the industry is your name, and the way you conduct yourself will dictate your reputation in the market. So the takeaway here is to look for people with an industry network and to invest in that network and your teams. Pay for association memberships, host events, encourage people at every level and in every function to build their networks because it will help your company in the long run. Beyond simply the department, function, team, or region, a VP of construction must have a business sense that transcends silos and technical experience. 91% of the VPs we surveyed had more than 10 years experience in the industry across multiple functions, and 2/3 have worked in more than 10, that's 10 functions. So it really shows that their investment in building a holistic understanding of their business operations beyond developing expertise in just one area. Here we have a quote from Briarwood's James Rizzo, who says, a leader who can understand the financials and how to differentiate parts of a project and business interact and impact those results, then you can add value to your business. Tying together the activity of each function, region, and project with the financials and overall outcome is one of the most important drivers of success. And finally, let's talk about vision and strategic leadership. Strategic planning is the #1 skill needed at a director level or above. It's about having the vision and knowledge to lead your company to success. As Joseph Ragazio from Taliesin says, have something to aim for. It's half the battle. Your executive's vision for the future and their ability to develop a strategy to get there is what will motivate your whole organization to achieve. So how do you get your current mid-level managers to this level? So we asked VPs what level was hardest to progress from, and you can see that it was a bit of a range, but 1/3 said this leap from management to senior management was the most difficult. It shows that this is really the crucial step for engaging and investing in your talent if you want to hang on to your high potential future leaders. So the main reason for the challenge was a lack of internal opportunities. And this makes absolute sense. There's always going to be more managers than senior managers and more senior managers than directors or VPs. So how can you hang on to these workers if you don't have immediate promotions available? So Paul Gingold from CM & Associates suggests challenge your team to bring you more ideas. Ask them to push back on your decisions. If they think that there are better approaches, give them the chance to start thinking and acting like leaders, to practice those skills before they reach the next level. One thing I've learned, which is backed by research we've done over here at Hayes, is that often when people talk about career progression, they really mean learning new things and having new challenges. If you can't offer an immediate promotion, think about how can you offer stretch assignments, maybe job rotations, some variety that will give them some different skills and experiences which will keep them engaged and also make them a better, more effective leader for your organization. I'd include investing in education here. That might be monetary, but it also can include different kinds of support, such as time off or reduced workload to allow them to study. So that's a summary of the report. So let's just look at the key recommendations. #1, look for people with a combination of technical and soft skills. So if you're hiring with an eye to the future, you need to see candidates with the potential to progress to managers, directors, and even beyond. This requires not only the technical skills for the current role, but the soft skills or potential learn that will make them effective people leaders. Number two, support your team's education. Training and development has twofold benefits. It is a critical retention tool, especially if you can't offer immediate career progression. It also enables you to develop internally the skills you need on your teams, in management, and in senior leadership. Number three, build your brand. So just as important, personal brand matters with construction leaders. Your employer brand is an important attraction and retention tool. You have to realize that in today's digital world, utilizing social media to become known as an industry leader, an employer of choice, does create a network of candidates that will think of you when they are looking for their next opportunity, and it will create an engaged talent pool for you to leverage. Okay, so that's the end of the key messages that I want to share today. I do hope that that helps, especially with your talents attraction strategies. I'm going to hand over to Ken now to share some of his insights in the construction industry, which I think will really complement and add on to this report, giving you guys some timely information on really what's currently affecting your company and hiring decisions. So with that, I will hand over to Ken. Ken, all yours.
Thanks very much. It's good to be with you folks today. And let me briefly give you a picture of what's happening with construction spending by segment, with construction employment, and just mention a little bit about costs, materials costs in particular. Let's start with what's happened to construction spending and employment over the last 10 years, because this really shows how the industry has been recovering and yet in some ways still has a long ways to go. The left-hand graph here shows that the all-time high for construction spending was set way back in February of 2006 at $1.21 trillion at what's called a seasonally adjusted annual rate. Seasonal adjustment takes into account the normal weather and holiday-induced variations in spending, and then annual rate takes that monthly figure and multiplies it by 12 so you can really compare to a full year. And you can see a very steep downturn that lasted for 5 years, 38% drop in construction spending. Since then, we've now had 5 years and a month, or 2 months, I believe, of recovery, and yet that little dashed line shows that spending as of March of this year was still 6% below peak. And that's in what economists call nominal or current dollars. It doesn't even take into account the inflation over that 10-year period plus. To get a sense of the real level of activity, look at the right-hand graph, which traces construction employment. That peaked just 2 months after spending, logically enough, started picking up about the same time that spending did at the beginning of 2011, but as of March was still 13% below the all-time high. So you might think that there would still be plenty of unemployed construction workers available for hire. Not so, however. The next graph shows what's happened with multifamily and single-family construction spending. The market has really shifted. Back in 2011, the multifamily was an almost invisible green slice there, and now it's the biggest share that it's been in decades, 31% of new residential construction. And the bottom graph here shows that multifamily continues to grow at a much faster rate than single family, up 35% in the last 12 months. The single family growth is shown by the red line, up 13%. And that growth differential, while it has varied, multifamily has been running much ahead of single family ever since they both turned positive in the middle of 2011. Now, many home building market and housing sales, housing finance economists, are predicting that this year single family will finally catch up in terms of growth rate. But some of them have been singing that song for 5 years now. I think there's good reason to expect that multifamily will continue to do better, although they are converging. And that relates both to the financial picture of the prime home buying population and also some demographic changes. Specifically, millennials have much higher student debt than the previous generation. They have credit impairments in many cases that might not have disqualified them from a mortgage in the past, but does now. And it's been much harder to accumulate enough savings for a down payment. In addition, I think many of them took a lesson away from what happened to people who rushed in to buy a house as soon as they could get a mortgage 10 or 15 years ago, thinking they could sell the house at a profit at any time, and instead they're still holding on to it, perhaps underwater, or worse, they've lost the house. That's making people much more cautious about buying a home. In terms of the demographic changes, this generation is waiting longer to get married, longer to have a child, maybe not having a second child. Those were all things that had triggered home buying in the past. And they're also choosing in somewhat greater degree to live in cities or denser suburbs where the housing choices are much more likely to be rental housing and specifically multifamily housing. So for all those reasons, I think that we have at least one more year of multifamily growth outpacing single family. Well, let's move on to the non-residential markets and see what's going on there. As you can see on the residential, I do think that both single and multifamily will have good positive results this year and should continue into 2017. Well, non-residential construction looks to me to be at least as strong, perhaps even stronger. This complicated table shows the various categories as defined by the Census Bureau in its monthly construction spending report. And I've combined the public and private non-residential. The first column of numbers shows you the total increase from 2014 to 2015 as a whole was 9%. And the second column shows that in the first quarter, the first 3 months of 2016, that growth continued, in fact, accelerated just a tad to 10%. And then in the final column, I have my forecast for 2016 and 17. Broadly speaking, I think 2016 will be a little stronger. It may come close to what we achieved last year. 2017, not quite as strong, but still positive. Working our way down the table, you see the categories ranked in order of 2015 size. Highway and street construction was the biggest then, and it's growing at an astounding clip in the first quarter. Well, that's really a weather-related anomaly. In much of the country in the first quarter of 2015, there was deep snow and ice that really impacted the start or the continuation of some highway projects. Conversely, this year's first quarter had a lot of very warm and dry weather in much of the country that enabled contractors to do more work than they typically do in that season. I think highway spending will be up for the year as a whole, but not at anything like the 21% rate. The positive factors are that many states have now passed increases in their gas taxes or other funding mechanisms, that people are driving more, they're buying more vehicles, that the driving more certainly helps on both the federal and state fuel tax receipts. The purchases of new vehicles adds to state sales or vehicle excise taxes and registration fees. Those monies also go into state trust funds at some point. And then third, in December, Congress passed the first long-term highway funding bill in over a decade. It modestly increased the actual dollars going back to the states, but equally importantly, it gives the state DOTs more assurance that they will be reimbursed for projects that take several years to do. And then finally, there appears to be some upward trend in public-private partnerships, but that's pretty hard to track. Second biggest category, power construction, was the only one that fell, and fell very sharply in 2015. It's on the rebound now thanks to some new interstate pipelines, both natural gas and in a few cases oil, and also some gas-fired power plants. The timing of both of these projects, these types of projects, very hard to pin down. So the 5 to 10% gain that I show here, either figure could show up in either of the next 2 years, but I think we are assured that we won't have a further decline in so-called power construction, which actually does include oil and gas in the census terminology. Third biggest category, educational construction, has started to rebound after several years of decline. You can see 2015 was up by a pretty decent percentage and very strong so far this year. Again, I don't think double-digit growth is sustainable, but many cities and school districts are benefiting from several years of higher property values, and with it, the property tax receipts that fund a lot of school projects. So I do think we'll have at least modest gains in this category. The longer-term picture, though, not very rosy. The number of high school graduates has actually been dropping. The total college enrollment down 10% over the last 3 years, partly because the job market has improved and people are heading into jobs instead of saying, well, I better get some more schooling before I do that. And so as a result, I think long-term construction in the educational category will be growing at very modest rates. Manufacturing construction was the superstar last year, up 44%. That's already cooled off to a very modest growth, and by next year I think it'll be negative. We had a lot of huge chemical projects ranging from fertilizer plants to ethane crackers, petrochemical plants, and natural gas liquefaction facilities. Not many or none have been announced in the last 10 or 12 months, and so the ones that are underway, once they finish up, then these numbers will decline. Similarly, on transportation equipment, you had all of the automakers announce expansions, modernizations, new plants early last year, nothing recent. Boeing is finishing up its biggest assembly plant ever in Everett, Washington. Locomotive and rail car orders that had been very strong have dropped off. So any kind of transportation equipment or parts plants likely to see a drop-off from what we had been getting. Commercial is a term that everyone seems to use differently. For for the Census Bureau, it means retail, warehouse, and farm construction. Again, deceptively strong numbers in the first quarter of the year. On the retail side, we've had perhaps an unprecedented number of store closings announced. Walmart and this week Aeropostale, each announcing closures of about 150 stores. Sears, Kmart, Macy's, and several other big chains announcing closures that are outnumbering the new big box stores that they had been building or going into new shopping centers. So retail looks very weak. Warehouse remains strong. These modern 1 to 2 million square foot warehouses, the junctions of interstates, and then also some hybrid facilities inside metro areas to allow same-day pickup or even delivery of goods that have been ordered online. But I think the boom in warehouse construction is really tapering off, so we'll see small growth in these categories later this year and even less next year. Office construction has also come back in a big way in 2015, and that's continuing so far this year. Again, I think fewer announcements of new projects hitting recently, but enough to keep this category growing at a decent rate in the next 2 years. Transportation is a mix of all the modes other than highway. On the private side, you had significant railroad investment that has now gone away, new track and yards. On the public side, ports, airports, some passenger rail and transit. But while there have been some new projects starting up, others have finished off, and so I think this will be a very small growth at best. Healthcare is one that lagged for a long time, came back last year, still growing modestly, and I think we will continue to see modest growth. Hospitals are finally investing again after a pause of several years, but they're generally building smaller facilities, fewer patient recovery rooms, more on the diagnostic and treatment side. And then lastly, lodging has been a very strong category for several years in a row, still up 30% in the first quarter, but lately the key metric for investors in hotels, called revenue per available room, or RevPAR for short, has gone from 5 to 10% year-over-year growth to just 3% or less. In fact, some weeks, like the latest data, was actually negative, and I think that's a very negative sign for what investors will be doing by next year. Well, let me move along from this. I do have detailed graphs and bullet points about each of these categories, but won't try to go through that here. You can get the full set of my slides from Hayes or from me. Let me move into the construction employment side. This map shows that in the latest 12 months, 44 states had an increase in construction employment, only 5 a decrease. But when you look at the metro areas, it's a more mixed picture. While 2/3 of the metros had an increase within every state, there's a range of colors from green, meaning positive, through the various shades of red, meaning negative, or in some cases, no change at all. Contractors have consistently been saying they can't find the workers they need, and yet total construction employment is growing at twice the rate of total non-farm payroll employment. So clearly contractors are hiring somebody, but they're generally not people with construction experience. We asked AGC of America, got responses from 1,300 and some members last September to a survey asking specifically about their workforce situation. And 79% of the respondents that use craft workers themselves said they were having trouble filling one or another positions. You can see here the 4 hardest to fill: carpenters, sheet metal workers, concrete workers, and electricians, but many others, at least half the firms, said that they were having trouble filling those. On the salaried side, project managers and supervisors the hardest to fill, and that's certainly consistent with what you heard in the first part of this webinar. What are contractors doing about it? About half of them are raising pay, a quarter are providing incentives or bonuses such as signing and completion bonuses. They're increasing contributions to existing benefits plans or introducing new benefits plans. They are trying to hire subcontractors, but in many cases the subcontractors are refusing to take on more work because they can't find the workers either, or worse, they're agreeing to do it and then aren't able to perform. To a lesser extent, companies are using labor-saving equipment, off-site manufacturing, or building information modeling. We plan to repeat this survey. We'll see if that's going up. But the one thing they're not able to do is hire unemployed construction workers. They just don't exist very much anymore. This graph shows that the number of people who answer a monthly survey from the Census Bureau that they say, I looked for work, I was not employed last month, but I actively looked, and my last job was in construction. That number went from almost 2.5 million 6 years ago to 750,000 in February of this year. That was the lowest February total in the 17 years that this question has been tabulated. So basically, if someone says, I'm unemployed, I looked for work, my last work in construction, there's a reason a contractor hasn't hired them. Well, let me cut it off here so there's time for questions. Just say that my overall forecast is that spending will continue to grow at high single-digit rates this year, a little less next year. It will continue to be well distributed among residential, private, non-residential, and public construction. And also that materials and other input costs are not a concern at this point. They dropped last year, continued to drop in the first quarter. Since then, we've had several rounds of rather hefty steel price increases, particularly for rebar and structural steel. Diesel fuel has been going up, although it's still well below where it was a year ago. And we've had savings on gypsum, unlike past years. So overall, very little increase by December in materials costs. Employment costs overall don't seem to be going up much, but that really masks the fact that contractors are hiring lots of people at the bottom end. They are paying significant bonuses or straight pay increases to the experienced workers. And so while the forecast overall looks modest, I think actually labor costs are getting to be significantly more of an issue for construction. But the biggest issue of all is finding workers who can really do the job. So that's it. Let me turn it back to you and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, great, Ken. Appreciate you joining us today. Fascinating information, a lot of data. Obviously, to Ken's point, that data will be available. We can distribute that out to you guys. So I know there's a lot to take in there. I want to open it up for questions for anything you guys want to ask, either of Ken or myself, or I'm going to make sure that Alex, have you joined us? I'm not sure if Alex is on the line or not. Are you there,
Can you
Alex?
hear me now?
Yes. There we go.
Yes, I'm here. I was just talking to myself.
It's a common theme, right? So I appreciate Alex joining us as well. So we'll field questions to the right person based on what comes through. So while we're waiting, I do want to mention that the full report for this will be available on Monday, so Monday of next week. So if you want to request a copy, feel free to visit our website. That's hayes-us.com and then /DNA-construction, and that will actually take you to a request page, and you can ask right there to have it sent. We will also put it online, and you'll have full access to it. So with that, there are some questions coming through. I know we just have a few minutes here, so I'm going to squeeze as many in as I can. So let's see. So I guess this to you, Alex, let you feel this. This is kind of on the employment side, recruiting side. So do you have any recommendations for where to go to reach qualified PM workers who can do the job? Which really sounds like a self-serving question to what we do, but I'll leave that up to you to answer, Alex.
Yeah, I was just going to give out my phone number, to be honest. That's the best route. No, I mean, I think, quite seriously, the market in terms of finding these people, it's different. It's very challenging to where it was maybe 5-10 years ago, where a lot of companies were going out as referrals to their networks, and a lot of advertising, and over that time, the market's changed, and those methods, particularly advertising, doesn't produce the results, and certainly referrals, there's a limitation to what you can really do with it. So I think our sort of advice on that, it's about building your brand as a business, and your brand as or your leaders within your business building their brand, because that's really what attracts the talent in. It's those individuals being seen at networking events, at construction awards dinners, or I think that's where you bring a lot of the passive candidates, the ones that you really want, across. And we talked about it earlier as well in terms of sort of how important networking and those soft skills are in the management piece, and that's certainly what you need from the VP of construction, is somebody that's out there as the face of the business, because that brings a lot of that talent to the door. And the challenge is with that, there's not a direct, we send into an event and you're suddenly going to pick up 3 PMs. So the challenge is it's something that you've got to invest time in, and it takes time to build. But if you do that, then you're in a far stronger position in the long term. So it's very much a long-term strategy.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And that's the thing, is there's no short-term solution, right? I mean, we're all faced with that. And I know we would love to have more candidates, more good qualified people available to us to deliver to our clients. That's where there's networking events and getting out. There's a lot of offline activity as well that happens with introductions. So putting yourself out there is key, like Alex is saying. And then the other piece that we've talked about on previous webinars is really the investment in training, building that next future, PM within your group, cross-training your teams. Taking that risk and chance is a big investment, but will pay off in the long run. Another question I want to actually direct this towards Ken on the economy side. So the question is, Ken, besides a true economic downturn, we won't use the R word, but let's just pretend we take that off the table. Minus that, what headwinds do you really see as a threat within construction right now?
Well, I think the biggest concern is how much labor is really out there that contractors can make use of. Evidently, they've been picking up people who are just coming into the workforce for the first time or coming back from other industries, and yet the pay doesn't seem to be rising much. So I think other industries also are on that hunt for talent, and it's likely that contractors are going to have to significantly start boosting pay, or they're going to have to keep adding to the hours of the workers they have. Reportedly, they've already been building up those overtime hours, and so that's just not a solution. Third possibility is take longer to do a job, but there aren't many owners who will be happy to hear that. So I do think that while the demand is coming from many sectors for new construction or expansions, modernizations, repurposing of older buildings such as shopping centers, some older suburban office parks and so forth, the industry's been able to meet the challenge so far, but the nature of how they do that is going to change significantly in the next year.
Yeah, makes sense. So really that talent shortage is in essence the biggest challenge that you're seeing as well.
Absolutely. And I guess I'd say contractors can't just go in and raise pay. They may very well need to do that in order to get workers for now, but this is going to be a very long-term issue, and contractors really need to start partnering, if they haven't already, with school districts, community colleges, apprenticeship programs, if those exist in the area, doing it either at an individual company level or working through local employer organizations and with the school districts and government agencies. And obviously that's a long-term solution, but you have to start convincing parents, guidance counselors, kids themselves that construction isn't just a dirty, dead-end job, that we use a lot of cool tools these days, whether it's laser and GPS-guided machines, in some applications drones, starting to see more use of robots, building information modeling. There's really a lot of high tech in construction and a lot of upward path, career path, as you've discussed, for the companies that have the sense to build that path and not say, all right, you're a laborer, that's all you're ever going to be.
Yeah, and that message is so key. I completely agree with you, because you're right. The kids graduating, they'll look at it. I've even been out to some of the universities and just talked about different career paths, and you just don't see many that say construction. And when you ask them why, It's ultimately they think it's, you know, dead end or that they're going to get too dirty. You know, they just don't really understand fully, or they just don't think it pays that well, you know, and ultimately, like, we're working with clients that, you know, we've got, you know, PMs that, you know, for instance, in Alex's area up in New York, they're, you know, over $200,000 salaries. I think most kids would be shocked to see some of the wages that that could be had within construction. So as far as any other questions that we have coming through, I think we might, April, as far as timing, how are we doing on timing? Because I know we're up against the clock here.
Well, I think that's actually all we've got time for right now. I can see there was a couple more questions, so if people are coming through, then we'll forward those on to you, Ken, and we can maybe even take this conversation offline after the fact.
Sure,
so
I'd be glad to talk to people that way.
Yeah. I just want to take the time now to say thank you to you both for participating, and thanks for joining us today, Ken. As James mentioned, the report's going to be available as of Monday on the website, hayes-us.com, and you'll be contacted directly on details on how you can get your hands on a copy of the guide. So thanks for taking part, and thanks for taking part in the survey, and those of you who are involved with the questionnaire portion as well. And I hope you find the guide interesting and useful as part of your role. Thank you.